Jimin did not just leave the stage after Arlington Day One. He left behind a moment that has thousands of armies completely emotional. Because somewhere in that massive stadium, surrounded by thousands of people, cameras, lights, and the unbelievable energy of a BTS concert, Jimin noticed one little girl. And what he did next was so simple, but somehow it said everything about the kind of person Jimin is. He gave her his keyring, and then, in one of the sweetest moments captured from the night, Jimin gently kissed her on the head. That was it, no huge announcement, no dramatic speech, just Jimin noticing a child in the crowd and choosing to give her something that belonged to him. And honestly, sometimes the smallest gestures are the ones that stay with people the longest. The moment quickly began circulating among fans, with armies pointing out how Jimin spotted the little girl and gave her his keyring. But there is something about this particular moment that makes it feel even more emotional. The little girl appeared to have a bald head, and many fans wondered whether she may have been dealing with cancer or recovering from treatment. But that part has not been confirmed. And I think it is important that we do not assume something so personal about a child just from what we can see. What we can see, however, is Jimin. We can see the way he notices her. We can see the tenderness in the interaction. And we can see that for those few seconds, this little girl was not just another person in a stadium filled with thousands of fans. Jimin made her feel seen. And that is what makes this moment so beautiful. Because imagine being that little girl. You are standing there, surrounded by an ocean of purple lights, watching one of the biggest artists in the world perform right in front of you. Then suddenly, Jimin notices you. He looks your way. He gives you his own keyring. And then he leans in and gives you the sweetest little kiss on the head. That is the kind of memory that could stay with someone for years. Maybe she will keep that keyring somewhere special. Maybe she will look at it years from now and remember that night. Maybe she will remember the lights, the music, the screaming crowd. But most importantly, she may remember that Jimin saw her. And that is something money cannot buy, because Jimin could have simply continued performing. There were thousands of fans around him. The stadium was enormous. There were cameras everywhere. Yet somehow he still managed to create this tiny, personal moment with one child. And this is exactly why armies keep calling Jimin an angel without wings. Not because he is perfect. Not because he is some fictional character. But because his kindness often appears in the smallest, most unexpected moments. And if you have followed Jimin for a while, you already know this is not exactly new. There is something about him that makes his affection feel incredibly natural. He does not always need a grand gesture. Sometimes it is the way he looks at someone. Sometimes it is the way he checks on people. Sometimes it is a small smile. And sometimes it is giving away something personal just because he sees someone who could use a little happiness. That is what makes this Arlington moment hit differently. The keyring itself might be small, but the meaning behind it feels enormous. Because when Jimin handed it over, he was not just giving away an object. He was giving a fan a memory. A memory from a night she may never forget. And the sweetest part, he did not need to do any of this. Nobody forced him. Nobody asked him to make some huge public gesture. He simply saw a little girl and responded with kindness. And maybe that is why this moment has touched so many people. Because in a world where everything moves so quickly, genuine kindness can still stop people in their tracks. And Jimin has a way of doing exactly that. He can step onto a stage in front of tens of thousands of people and completely command the entire stadium. But then, in the middle of all that chaos, he can become incredibly gentle with one little fan. That contrast is what makes him so special. One moment he is performing in front of an entire stadium. The next he is bending down toward a child and making sure she feels cared for. And armies could not handle it. Because how are we supposed to watch something like that and simply move on? How do you see Jimin kissing that little girl's head and not immediately think about how much warmth this man seems to carry with him? And perhaps that is the real reason Jimin keeps breaking the internet. It is not always because of his visuals. It is not always because of his outfits. It is not always because of something he does on stage. Sometimes Jimin breaks the internet simply by being Jimin, by being soft, by being thoughtful, by showing that behind the superstar everyone is screaming for, there is still a person who notices the little things. And Arlington Day One gave us another beautiful example of that. But there is another detail about this moment that makes it even more special, because Jimin did not just give that little girl something, he gave her his attention, and sometimes that can mean more than anything else. Think about how easy it would have been for that moment to pass by unnoticed. A stadium full of people, thousands of lights, music blasting, fans screaming Jimin's name. And yet somehow his attention landed on one little girl. That is the part I keep coming back to. Because when you are performing at that scale, everything around you is moving. There are dancers, there are cameras, there are members. There are fans everywhere. There is an entire production happening around you. But Jimin still had a moment where he looked beyond all of that, and he saw her. Then came the keyring. And then came that incredibly tender kiss on her head. It was such a tiny moment compared with the size of the concert. But emotionally, it may have been one of the biggest moments of the entire night. And honestly, this is why I think Jimin's kindness hits people so differently. He has this ability to make a huge crowd feel like a collection of individual people. He does not only see ARMY, he notices individuals, he notices expressions, he notices reactions, he notices when someone needs reassurance. And when he can give someone a little happiness, he seems to do it without making a huge deal out of himself. That is such a beautiful quality, because real kindness does not always need an audience. Sometimes it is just one person making another person smile, and that is exactly what this moment feels like. One person. One child, one tiny keyring, one gentle kiss, and an unforgettable memory. Of course, the internet immediately did what the internet does best. ARMY started sharing the moment, reacting to Jimin's sweetness and calling attention to how precious the interaction was. And suddenly, a tiny moment inside a gigantic concert became one of the moments everyone was talking about. But perhaps the most beautiful thing is that the girl did not need to be famous. She did not need to be standing in some special VIP area. She did not need millions of followers. She was simply a little fan who happened to catch Jimin's attention. And for those few seconds, she got something that money could never purchase. A personal memory with someone she probably came to the concert hoping to see. That is priceless. And I honestly hope that keyring stays with her for a very, very long time. Because one day she might look back at it and remember Arlington. She might remember the music. She might remember the purple ocean. She might remember standing among thousands of armies, but she will also remember that Jimin noticed her, that he gave her something, that he treated her with tenderness. And that is a beautiful thing to carry through life. There is also something incredibly touching about the fact that Jimin did not turn the moment into a performance. He did not need to make it dramatic. He just did what came naturally to him. That is what makes the gesture feel so genuine. And maybe this is why so many people describe Jimin as having such a loving heart. Because when you look at his interactions over the years, there is often this same softness. A softness that somehow survives even when he is surrounded by enormous crowds and overwhelming attention. He can be playful. He can be chaotic. He can be unbelievably funny. He can completely own a stage. But then you see moments like this and remember another side of him. The gentle Jimin. The Jimin who notices. The Jimin who cares. The Jimin who can turn a few seconds into a memory someone may treasure forever. And that is why Arlington Day One was not just another concert. For one little girl, it may have become a night she will remember for the rest of her life. And for ARMY watching from screens, it became another reminder of why Jimin is loved far beyond his music and his incredible performances. Because talent can make you admire someone. Beauty can make you notice someone. Fame can make the whole world know their name. But kindness makes people remember you, and that is what Jimin did. He created a memory. He gave away something that belonged to him. He offered a little affection. And in return, he probably had no idea just how many people would become emotional watching that tiny interaction later. That is the beautiful irony of Jimin. He can do something that probably feels completely ordinary to him, and somehow it becomes extraordinary to everyone else. So yes, Jimin broke the internet after Arlington Day One. But this time, it was not because of a shocking outfit. It was not because of a hairstyle. It was not because of some unbelievable stage moment. He broke the internet because he reminded millions of people that kindness still matters. And if that little girl really was going through a difficult chapter in her life, I hope this moment gave her even a little bit of happiness. We should never assume what she has been through just by looking at her appearance. But regardless of her story, one thing is clear. She met Jimin, he noticed her, he gave her his keyring, and he gave her a moment filled with warmth. Maybe that is what being an angel without wings really means. Not flying down from the sky, not doing something impossible, just being there when someone needs a little kindness. And Jimin once again showed that sometimes the smallest gesture can leave the biggest mark. If this beautiful moment touched your heart too, make sure you subscribe to my channel, like this video, leave a comment telling me what you thought about Jimin's sweet gesture, and share this video with another ARMY who needs to see this. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.